There's our politics. Forget your politics. Just put it all aside. There's a greater interest than your politics.
All of a sudden, he's apolitical.
Doing the right thing for this country and for your constituents, and stop the hyper part.
You mean like prosecuting Trump with your Southern Crooked District Attorney's Office, Goomba? Huh? Now all of a sudden, you're amorphous? You're apolitical? You rat bastard liar? Whatever happened to the Buffalo Billions? What happened to the commission that we put in place to make sure our politicians weren't corrupt and stealing from the state? You know, the Moreland Commission that you signed off on until they started looking at you. And then all of a sudden, boop, that went away. And now, 5 years later, how much have you stolen since then, Goombats? Hey, I'm half Sicilian. I know your stripes. I know what you are. You're a dirtbag. You've been stealing everything that isn't nailed down in the state of New York. And you learned good from your daddy. You learned good. He taught you well. Now, all of a sudden, you need money to bail out for the $60 to $100 billion debt that you created. Had nothing to do with this COVID. Every expenditure you needed for COVID, the federal government already gave you. You're too stupid to use the assets. Ventilators, you said you needed 40 to 50,000. Trump got you 25,000, of which you never used half of them. Maybe you used half of them. And then we turn around and listen to you bellyache. You don't have enough this, you don't have enough that. One lie after another. He gave you a ship with 1,000 beds for COVID, but you did nothing with it. You stuck those COVID patients in nursing homes and you murdered 6,000 people. You did that, Goombats. And I pray God somebody out there has my ethos. Because if that was my mama, I'd be coming for you. Okay? Because you had the nerve to go on TV and put your mother up there with your brother, Chrissy, and talk about how precious she was and that you couldn't visit her because you didn't want her to be at risk. But you mandated that these nursing homes take in COVID patients. And you sit there like you're Christ cleansing the temple. You're out of your mind. I've never read in history such pathology and hypocrisy. You got to go back to one of your ancestors, Caligula or Nero. So let's listen to the rest of your BS.
Sin attitude and the gridlock. Forget the red and the blue. We are red, white, and blue. We're all Americans.
Oh, but I thought we weren't so great. A couple years ago, didn't you say it was never that great? Oh, now you're waving the flag, right? You spit on that flag for the first 2-3 years in office. Now you're Jimmy Cagney and Yankee Doodle Dandy.
That's my opinion. Back to the facts. We're going to focus on the opening of New York City. We have reopened the other regions of the state. We divided the state into different regions because the state has dramatically different facts across the state. We're in New York City, one of the densest urban areas on the globe. We have parts of upstate New York, which are rural areas, which look more like the Midwest, and they had facts more like the Midwest. So we divided the state into...
Yeah, I'll tell you why. There are people who get up and work, and they produce, and they don't take things from people. They're not indigent, right? They follow rules. And they don't depend on people like you for their meals. They get up and they produce, as opposed to people who never get up and consume.
Regions and addressing the facts in each region. The other regions have all started reopening. New York City, where we had a much higher number of cases than anywhere else in the state, anywhere else in the country, than many countries on the...
Start spreading the disease. I'm leaving today. I won't be a part of it. New York, New York. Why don't you start singing for us, Andrew?
New York City is a more difficult situation. We were attacked in New York City by the coronavirus from Europe. I like to say that because people...
You hear that? Now he's blaming Europe.
People say, what do you mean the coronavirus from Europe? I thought the coronavirus was from China. Yeah, so did I. So did everyone. That's what we were told. The coronavirus was coming from China. What we weren't told was the coronavirus left China, went to Europe. January, February.
Let me tell you why, Goomba. Because your kinfolk over there in Naples and in Rome, they didn't want to do nothing about it, see? They wanted to talk like you. Trump's a xenophobe. Trump's a xenophobe. He calls it a Chinese virus. We can't have that. So we called it COVID, and we called it, this is what you libtards do. You did it in 1919. Yeah, that was your Pantheon champion, Woodrow Woody Wilson, who passed the Sedition Act and threatened anybody with immediate jail without a writ of habeas corpus if they even mentioned the influenza of 1918. And the reason today it's known as the Spanish flu is because the Spanish government was the only government not involved in World War I in Europe. And they were compelled to freely write about said virus where no one else would. Neither adversarial nations, Germany, America, England, France, don't tell anybody. And because of that, 4 times the amount of human beings died from the Spanish flu in 1 year than killed all the nations combined in 5.5 years of World War I. Because of obfuscators, deceptors like you, Andrew, who don't want to call what something is for what it is. So you don't want to call this a communist Chinese influenza, because that's what it was. It comes from a lab in Wuhan. It's the woe unto you Wuhan flu. But you're going to try to conflate this. I hope all your cuisines back in the old country hear what you're saying. Because you're calling it European, but you won't say what you really want to say. It came from Italy. Hey, Goomba, como stai?
And then came here from Europe. Oh, nobody told us. I know nobody told us. They say nobody knew. I don't know.
Wait a minute, did it come from Czechoslovakia? No. Come from France? No. Did it come from England? No. Did it come from Germany? 9. Where'd it come from, Andrew? Italy!
How nobody knew. But the cases came from Europe. January, February, March.
Hey, I got a great idea, Andy. Here's what we do. We call it the Marco Polo disease. This is good. This is good now, Andrew. We'll call it the Marco Polo disease because he said, like a Marco Polo. Marco Polo went over there to get his spaghetti. And he come back to Italy. And then they come to America. So why don't we call it the Marco Polo disease? And then we all good. And you can feel good. And you don't blame it on Chinese. And you can still get your number 11 in the Kung Pao chicken. Huh? Would that make you feel good, Governor Goombats? You deceptive, lying rat weasel?
3 million people traveled from Europe to JFK and Newark Airport.
Ah, but what did you do about it? I know what Trump did. He said no more people coming here from China. And no more people come here from Brazil or any place else that's infected. But you stood against it. Like the Rock of Gibraltar, you're going to take Trump on, and you rolled up your sleeves and you stuck your chest out and you wagged your finger in condescending judgment of what a xenophobe. Do you even know what xenophobe means? Let me tell you, cuisine. Comes from the great philosopher Xenophon. Okay, he was very wary of foreigners. He was a Greek. Those Greeks were pretty smart. Just about every subject matter worth learning about has a Greek name. I got to tell you, brother, you're barking up the wrong tree, as you always do. And you think you're cute. You think you're going to sit down with Donald Trump, a builder, a guy who negotiates with 15 people an hour before breakfast. And you stupid ass who never had a real job. You went from a tow truck driver in Queens to a law school that daddy paid to make sure you got into Harvard or everywhere else because you're so qualified. You're so utterly intelligent. I can't count the pearls of wisdom that flow from your bronze tongue. And you're just audacious enough to think you're going to go down to Washington and play cutie pie with Donald Trump. That's just what an idiot you are. So you must have walked out of there with your ears ringing like a 5-year-old who got slapped. And you're all spiteful again today. So you're going to snipe. And you're going to talk about, can't we all just get along? And why doesn't this have to be political? Listen, pal, your sins are being revealed. God reveals all truth in his time. Every blue state in this country has been unveiled. The apocalypse for you people. You did this.
Why did New York City have so many cases? Because 3 million Europeans came January, February, March and brought the virus and nobody knew.
And you did nothing. And you did nothing.
No fault of our own. There's nothing endemic to New York City. Yeah, we have density.
Yeah.
But we're all watching China. We're looking to the West. And the virus came from the East. It came from Europe.
No, dummy. China's the East. Dummy. China's the Far East. Okay? If you said the immediate East, you might have been near the mark. But like everything else, you're a sinner. You never hit the mark. And you won't say Italy. You won't do it. Just like Joe Pesci says, don't say it. Don't say it. Right? You don't want to say it. Naples boy. Hey, Napolitan. Come stai? Che si dice? And you don't want to say it came from Italy. I know a lot of Italians. They loved Obama. They hated George Bush. He's going to start a World War III. Donald Trump is a crazy. Well, I got a buddy of mine who talks like that. He owns 15 buildings in Manhattan, 3 in Astoria, including a hotel and restaurant on 54th Street. Well, he ain't talking like that anymore because he made more money in the last 3 years than he made in the previous 10. And but for this Italian virus, is that right, Andrew? You're nuts.